Now, the DA is defending its campaign posters, which have caused a furore in Phoenix, in Durban. The posters read, "The ANC calls you racists, the DA calls you heroes." The opposition party has come under fire on social media and is being accused of fascism. To tell us more, let's speak to the DA KwaZulu-Natal chairperson and campaign manager, Dean McPherson. Dean, thank you so much for making time. Why are you using these racial tensions in Phoenix as a campaign instrument?
Thanks, Clement. Nice to be with you for the second time today. And as I said this morning, that the only people who are attaching race or race baiting on this is the ANC itself, because they know that those 2 points in the posters are entirely true. The first one is that for the last 3 months, they have been running around the province blaming any and everyone except themselves, saying that people who defended their homes, defended their properties in all communities were racists. And that was obviously to distract from the ANC-sponsored looting and rampage that took place in the name of freeing Jacob Zuma. And so that's where the conversation has continued to go. And we believe that that's simply not true, and they need to be called out for that. The second factual point is that we don't believe that those people who stood as the last line of defense when the state completely failed them and abrogated from its responsibility, its first and primary responsibility to protect citizens, they are not racist either. And they did so in communities across our city, from taxi associations who protected malls to local neighborhood watchers. They are not racist either. They are indeed heroes. And the very same words were uttered by the president in July when the unrest started, to thank those that had stepped into the breach to protect infrastructure, to protect malls, and so on. So the only people that have apportioned race or apportioned a demographic to this has been the ANC, to continue to deflect from their outrageous failures to take any and all responsibility for what happened in July.
What message were you trying to send out through these posters? Especially, let's look at Phoenix, because that's where you've put up the posters. And I know you've got plans to put them across other areas in KwaZulu-Natal. But what message are you sending out in Phoenix, in an area where community members, in defending themselves, were butchering other community members? They killed them brutally so. They assaulted them. They burned them alive. What do you say then to the families of the victims when, in the context of Phoenix, you are calling the vigilante attackers heroes, when in fact what they did was kill their fellow community members?
Well, we're definitely not calling them heroes. We have gone on the public record many times to say that anyone that transgressed the law should be held accountable for what they did, and that is taking place. But we cannot brush communities in broad strokes to say that all Indians are racist. That is not true. It is equally not true to say that those community members from Bambai and Amawati are looters, because that is also not true. What the ANC have successfully done is they have managed to wrap the entire protest and the entire Free Jacob Zuma campaign into Phoenix and made it a racially charged issue. And we're saying that that is just simply not true. And again, those people who have committed acts or have been arrested for criminality must be held accountable. But it is absolutely not true to say that all Indians are racist. And no one had a problem when the ANC were scapegoating Indians. No one had a problem when this was said in Parliament. No one had a problem when the EFF was marching through Phoenix with boards saying that Indians are thirsty blood killers. No one had a problem with that, and that has been allowed to become the mainstream.
It's not true, Dean. It's not true that nobody had a problem with that. Yeah, just to clarify, yeah, but you're generalizing, and that's absolutely not true. If you haven't read up or seen commentary of the criticism that has been there on the events that you're talking about, I think you may want to go and check. But it's not true that nobody had a problem about racist comments that were made and coming from political parties about the Phoenix area and what happened here. Do you think that the community members in Phoenix...
Not even the president was willing to heal his minister, Bheki Cele, who has spent every day since the riots broke out fanning the flames of racism. And in fact, in Parliament, the president said that he will not censure him and will not do so. So with due respect, I don't believe that appropriate measures have been taken to rein in and to condemn those that have attempted to scapegoat the Indian community as how they have been portrayed. But this is not about the Indian community. This is much broader. This is about people in Kwamashu who defended their properties and defended their malls in collaboration with taxi associations. They are not racist. 19 people were killed in Ananda, and no one wants to talk about them because that is politically inconvenient to do so for the ANC. And for as long as they are allowed to continue to focus their efforts on one community, we stop talking about all of the damage that was inflicted on the city. We stop talking about the 300 people that lost their lives.
Yeah, I think the problem here, Dean, is that Phoenix, what happened in Phoenix was in fact a criminal moment and an event that none of us should ever get to undermine. There are people that died across KwaZulu-Natal, across Gauteng, that lost their lives from the looting, whether it was from the stampedes, whether it was from the killings. But when you look at how people were killed in Phoenix, you cannot begin to compare that with how other people died in other parts of Gauteng and in other parts of KwaZulu-Natal, which is why I'm asking you if you don't think that your poster is more general in terms, because your poster, when it refers to the heroes, right, your poster is in Phoenix. When it refers to the heroes in the context of Phoenix, you are not indicating in that poster that the community members who, in their defense, killed other people so brutally, those are not your heroes. It's more general and ambiguous and refers to community members in general in that community who defended themselves as heroes. It doesn't separate community members who set up armed checkpoints at strategic access points to the area and started racially profiling people.
Well, the only people that have ascribed that are the ANC and the media, with respect. And it is simply not true, the continued characterization of the Indian community. There were checkpoints across the entire city, in every community, from Umlazi to Umhlanga. That is a fact of life. And I know it's sometimes difficult for people who weren't in the city at the time to comprehend exactly what was going on. But for nearly 7 days, communities were left to fend for themselves. The state abrogated its first responsibility to protect citizens and to maintain law and order. And of course, when that does happen, you open up the opportunity for vigilantism to creep in. And that is what has happened.
It doesn't make it right, though, Dean. It doesn't make it right. The fact that the police failed in doing their jobs...
condemn those acts of vigilantism.
Yeah, that doesn't make it right.
But that does not mean that all Indians are racist. It does not.
No, nobody said that, Dean.
People.
Yeah, but Dean, please do us a favor. Stop making a reference. Yeah, you're making a very dangerous reference. With all due respect, I think it's ridiculous. You keep on referring to it's not true that all Indians are racist. I never made that statement. You've never had anyone made that statement on this channel. You can attribute it to the ANC when you're having conversations or criticizing them. We are talking now about you as the Democratic Alliance and the posters you've put out. So I'm asking you to stop referring to that because it's a dangerous statement and it makes a false statement about how the Indians are perceived in Phoenix. That's not our conversation here. You're talking about vigilantism, and I'm asking you, when you are saying that when the police are failing, the community is left to mend for itself. I'm saying it doesn't make it right. When the law enforcement fails, it doesn't say me, as Clement, I've got powers that are transferred to me, and I can take up arms and go and kill people that I think are trying to come and loot my shop.
Clement, at no point have we ever said that what people did in that instance were correct. We've condemned that. We've said that the law must take its course. But what we also cannot say and accept is that people who, by and large, and in the broadest possible respect, did what the law enforcement job was, and that was to protect their communities and protect their infrastructure. And in fact, and people only who were here would know that it was the SAPS and the Metro Police who were encouraging the barricades up till about Thursday to remain, because it allowed them to go and deal with the looting, because they simply did not have enough resources to go and deal with every single act of attempted break-in or looting that were taking place in the suburbs. And quite frankly, it's not right to say that when communities are left on their own, when law enforcement withdraws, that they must simply just sit in their house. I don't think that is correct.
And nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. That's why
they mostly acted within the law, and they did what they needed to do to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
Taxi associations were forming a ring around malls to protect themselves. Are we saying that they shouldn't have done that? They were praised for doing that. I don't think that that's wrong to condemn.
Yeah, they didn't take up arms. They didn't kill people. They didn't butcher community members from other areas and started shooting randomly on people. They didn't set up checkpoints and start racially profiling people. That was done by some community members in parts of KwaZulu-Natal, and specifically in Phoenix.
And that's what we have said that repeatedly, that was wrong, and that we have condemned that, and that is not right.
So who are these heroes? Who are the heroes that you are celebrating in Phoenix?
We are not going to allow people to be painted in broad brushstrokes. I'll tell you who the heroes are. The heroes are the moms and the dads who stood watch at their communities and in their roads to safeguard them. They are the business owners that stood outside their businesses to make sure that they weren't burnt down and looted. Those are the heroes. They are the taxi drivers who stood around malls to make sure that their malls and local infrastructure was not looted. They are the heroes.
Here's what the families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre had to say. And they're saying that they're offended by your poster because you are referring to the community and you are not even separating the good from the bad. Your poster just flatly says, the ANC calls you racists, we call you heroes. When a mother who lost her 19-year-old son looks at that poster celebrating the heroes in that community where her son died, and she tells you that I'm offended by that, are you just simply going to disregard that as the DA and just keep it going?
No, well, on your very show this morning, you'll remember I spoke to her, Clement, and I said that what happened to her son was truly tragic. And of course, we do hope that they find justice for his death, because one death is one too many. And we must find justice for all 300 people who lost their lives, and in many other communities that also lost their lives. But what we can't allow is the ANC to continue to drive a narrative that people who stood up in the face of the looting that they sponsored to be condemned as racist, because they just simply are not.
Yeah, but I'm asking a direct question. I'm not asking you about the ANC. I'm asking, as the DA, the families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre are telling you that when we look at this poster, it offends us. It saddens us because we lost our loved ones in the actions of the people in this community, some of the people that were killing in defense of their businesses and their homes. These mothers are telling you that. We've lost our sons, we've lost our sisters. As a party, do you disregard that and keep it going and play politics and say, well, it's the ANC that must answer? What responsibility do you have to these families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre?
Well, what we've said is that we want to ensure that justice is followed through, and that's why I think it is important, and we have been on the record to say that the justice must take place, and no corners must be cut for any type of expediency whatsoever, because we must ensure that those people find closure. But what we must also do, Clement, and with respect, is we also must ensure that those who brought this chaos and this death and this destruction upon our city are held electorally accountable. And that they must pay a price for that. Because if those two instances did not happen, where this looting was not started in the name of freeing a former president, and the state did not abrogate its role, none of this would have happened. And that's where the responsibility lies. And there must be actions and consequences for that.
You're still not answering my question, Dean. With all due respect, I want you to respond to it directly. As the DA, you've heard the victims, the families of the victims of the Phoenix massacre saying your poster offends us. It saddens us, it triggers us. Are you disregarding that and continuing with the posters and putting them across Phoenix?
Of course, we take into cognizance all feelings and all emotions that anything that we say arises. That, unfortunately, is the nature of politics. But what we are also saying is that we're not going to allow people, broad communities, to be painted in one brush or another. And we're also not going to allow those that lost their lives in other communities to be forgotten about, and not for them to find justice because of this.
Okay, just to clarify as we wrap up, as the DA, you are saying you're hearing what the families of the victims are saying, but you going ahead with this campaign, even though they're telling you that this saddens them, they're not happy, they're triggered by these posters. You are going ahead with that. Am I getting you clear on that?
Yeah, we will. We spoke with them this morning. You were kind enough to put one of them on the line with me, and we had that discussion.
Yeah, that's just one of them. There are more than 30 people that died. That's 30 families. Thank you for making time, Dean. I think we get it now. I think you've clarified that as the DA, no matter how these people feel that have lost their loved ones in that community, and they are being triggered and offended by these posters, you're going to go ahead. That's the DA KZN chairperson and campaign manager, Dean McPherson.